The Empire was alerted. Trespassing into Terran territory guarantees death. Part 2. The warning ignored. Admiral Timon had served the Terran Defense Command for 47 years. He had gray hair, tired eyes, and a calm voice that never rose above a whisper. People who did not know him thought he was a gentle old man. People who knew him understood that he was the most dangerous human alive. He sat in his office on Station Omega, the largest military base in Terran space. From here, he commanded every ship, every weapon, and every soldier that protected humanity. It was a heavy responsibility. Most nights, he could not sleep. He would stand by his window and watch the stars, thinking about all the ways the galaxy could destroy his people. But tonight, he was not worried about the galaxy. He was worried about one empire, the Vektari. His aide, Lieutenant Minji, entered the room with a tablet in her hands. She was young, perhaps 25, with sharp eyes and quick movements. Taming had chosen her personally. She was one of the smartest officers he had ever met. "The latest intelligence report, Admiral," she said, handing him the tablet. Taemin read through it slowly. The Vektari were gathering their fleet at the edge of their Tari. 300 warships, 50,000 soldiers. Enough firepower to destroy a small planet. And they were all pointed at Terran space. "When will they move?" Taemin asked. "Within 72 hours, sir. Our sources inside the Empire say Emperor Dran wants a quick victory. He is sending his best general, a man named Minho." Taemin nodded. He knew about General Minho. The man had conquered 40 worlds in his career. He was smart, ruthless, and completely loyal to the Emperor. He was exactly the kind of enemy Taemin did not want. "Have we sent the final warning?" "Not yet, sir. We were waiting for your approval." Taemin stood up and walked to his window. Outside, he could see the lights of Station Omega stretching into the darkness. Thousands of people lived and worked here. They had families, dreams, futures, and now a foreign empire wanted to take all of that away. "Send it," Taemin said. "Make sure Emperor Dran receives it personally. Make sure there is no doubt about what will happen if he attacks." Minji nodded and left the room. An hour later, a Terran drone crossed into Vektari space. It flew directly to the Emperor's throne world, ignoring every patrol that tried to stop it. When it reached the capital city, it broadcast a single message to every screen and speaker on the planet. Emperor Dran was in his war room when the message appeared. His generals and advisors fell silent as the face of an old human filled the screen. Admiral Taemin looked directly at the camera, as if he could see through it into Dran's eyes. "Emperor Dran of the Vektari Empire," Taemin began. His voice was calm and steady. "I am Admiral Taemin of the Terran Defense Command. I know that you are planning to invade our space. I know that you have gathered 300 ships and 50,000 soldiers. I know that you believe you can conquer us easily." Taemin paused. When he spoke again, his voice was harder, colder. "You are wrong. This is your final warning. Turn your fleet around. Go back to your empire. Leave us alone, and we will leave you alone. But if you cross our border, if you bring war to our worlds, we will destroy you. Not just your fleet, not just your army. We will destroy every ship you send, every soldier you sacrifice. There will be no prisoners. There will be no mercy. There will only be death." The message ended. The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one in the war room spoke. Then Emperor Dran began to laugh. It started as a small chuckle, then grew louder and louder until it filled the entire room. His generals looked at each other nervously. They had never seen the Emperor laugh so hard. "Did you hear that?" Dran said, wiping tears from his eyes. "A species with 12 planets just threatened the greatest empire in history. An old man sitting in a metal box just told me that I will die if I attack him. He turned to his generals. This is what happens when small civilizations are left alone for too long. They forget their place in the universe. They forget that there are powers greater than them. General Minho stepped forward. He was tall and broad, with the body of a warrior and the mind of a strategist. My Emperor, the humans' confidence concerns me. No one sends such a message unless they believe they can back it up. Confidence? Dran laughed again. That was not confidence. That was desperation. They know they cannot stop us. They know their worlds will fall. This message is their last hope to scare us away. And it has failed. He walked to the center of the room, where a holographic map showed Terran space in glowing blue. General Minho, you will lead the invasion fleet. You will cross their border, destroy their defenses, and claim their worlds for the Empire. Bring me the head of this Admiral Temin. I want to hang it on my wall. Minho bowed. It will be done, my Emperor. The Vektari fleet departed 2 days later. 300 ships flying in perfect formation. It was the largest invasion force the Empire had sent in over a century. Minho stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Ironclaw, and watched the stars fly past. He was not as confident as the Emperor. The human's message had bothered him. There was something in the old man's eyes. Something that looked like pity, as if the human already knew how this would end. But Minho was a soldier. He followed orders. And his orders were clear. Conquer the humans or die trying. The fleet reached the border of Terran space at midnight, Galactic Standard Time. Minho ordered all ships to halt. Before them was empty space. No defenses. No patrols. No sign that anyone was watching. Scan the area, Minho commanded. His sensors officer worked for several minutes. Nothing, General. The sector appears to be completely undefended. I detect no military vessels within range. Minho frowned. This was wrong. Even the weakest civilization would have something guarding their border. Patrol ships. Defense satellites. Something. But the humans had nothing. Unless they were hiding. Can you detect any concealed objects? Anything hidden in the asteroid fields or behind the planets? The officer checked again. There are some faint energy signatures in the outer asteroid belt, General. But they are very small. Perhaps automated sensors or old mining equipment. Minho remembered what Commander Yuna had reported. She had also detected strange signatures in the asteroid fields. At the time, it had seemed unimportant. Now, Minho was not so sure, but the Emperor expected victory. The fleet was ready. There was no going back. All ships, Minho announced over the fleet channel. We are about to cross into enemy territory. Stay in formation. Watch your sensors. And remember that you represent the glory of the Vektari Empire. Let us show these humans what true power looks like. The fleet moved forward. 300 ships crossed the invisible line into Terran space. Immediately, every ship received the same transmission. The warning message. The calm voice explaining that trespassing guarantees death. It played 3 times and stopped. Minho laughed nervously. Empty threats. Continue forward. They traveled for 6 hours without incident. The deeper they went into Terran space, the more Minho began to relax. Perhaps the humans really were as weak as the scouts had said. Perhaps this invasion would be the easy victory the Emperor expected. Then his sensors officer spoke again. Her voice was different now, shaking. General, I am detecting energy signatures. Many of them. They are appearing all around us. How many? I cannot count them all, General. Hundreds, maybe thousands. They are coming from everywhere. The asteroid fields. The planets. Even empty space. It is like they were invisible until now. Minho rushed to the sensor screen. His blood went cold. The signatures were everywhere. Ships, platforms, weapons, all of them hidden until this moment. All of them now powering up. The Vektari fleet was completely surrounded. Before Minho could give an order, a new transmission came through. It was the same old human from before, Admiral Teeman. But this time, he was not speaking from a recording. This was live. "General Minho," Teeman said. His voice was sad, almost gentle. "You were warned. Your Emperor was warned. We told you what would happen if you came here. We gave you every chance to turn back." On the view screen, Minho could see Terran ships appearing from nowhere. They were not like the small cargo vessels the scouts had seen. These ships were huge, dark, covered in weapons that glowed with deadly light. "Please," Minho said. He did not know why he said it. "Let us retreat. We will leave your space. We will tell the Emperor to forget this war." Teeman shook his head. "It is too late for that. You crossed our border. You brought weapons into our home." The warning was clear. Trespassing guarantees death. The transmission ended. Minho opened his mouth to order a retreat. But before he could speak, the first Terran weapons fired, and the darkness of space turned to fire. The Empire was alerted. Trespassing into Terran territory guarantees death. Part 3. The Terran Response Captain. Hana had been waiting for this moment for 15 years. She stood on the bridge of the destroyer Iron Will, watching the Vektari fleet on her view screen. 300 enemy ships. 50,000 enemy soldiers. All of them about to die. Hana was 42 years old. She had short black hair, sharp eyes, and hands that never shook. She had commanded the Iron Will for 7 years, and in that time, she had never lost a battle. Today would not be different. "All stations report ready." Captain, her first officer, Lieutenant Jiho, announced. "Good. Wait for the Admiral's signal." The Iron Will was hidden behind a small moon, along with 60 other Terran warships. They had been sitting here for 2 days, completely silent, completely invisible, waiting for the Vektari to walk into the trap, and now the trap was about to close. "Admiral," Teeman's voice came through the fleet channel. "All ships, this is Teeman. The enemy has entered the kill zone. They refused our final warning. You know what that means." Hana knew exactly what it meant. She had grown up hearing stories about what happened to civilizations that attacked Earth. There were no survivors. There were no prisoners. That was the rule. That had always been the rule. Humanity had learned a hard lesson long ago. The galaxy was not a friendly place. There were empires out there that saw humans as insects, creatures to be crushed and forgotten. And so humanity had made a decision. They would not try to make friends. They would not try to negotiate. They would simply make it clear that attacking them was suicide. The warning broadcasts were part of that. Every species in the galaxy knew about them. Every species had heard the message. Trespassing into Terran territory guarantees death. Some thought it was a bluff. Some thought it was a joke. The Vektari were about to learn the truth. "Lieutenant Jiho," Hana said calmly. "Initiate protocol blackout." Jiho's fingers danced across his console. "Protocol blackout initiated, Captain. All defense platforms are activating. All hidden ships are decloaking. Enemy communications are being jammed." On the view screen, Hana watched as thousands of Terran weapons came to life. Defense platforms hidden in asteroid fields powered up their weapons. Ships that had been invisible for days suddenly appeared in flashes of light. And around the Vektari fleet, a wall of jamming signals cut off every transmission. The Vektari were now blind, deaf, and surrounded. "Enemy fleet is attempting to reorganize," Jiho reported. "They are trying to form a defensive formation." "Too late for that," Hana said. "All weapons. Target the nearest enemy vessel. Fire at will. The Iron Will opened fire. Its main cannons sent beams of white light across space. They struck a Vectari cruiser and tore through its shields like paper. The cruiser exploded in a ball of orange flame. Across the battlefield, the same scene played out hundreds of times. Terran ships attacked from every direction. Defense platforms launched missiles by the thousands. The Vectari tried to fight back, but their weapons seemed weak and slow compared to what the humans were using. Captain Hana watched the destruction with cold eyes. She felt no joy, no excitement. This was not a battle. This was an execution. Enemy vessel at bearing 270, Jiho called out. It is trying to break through our line. Hana looked at the screen. A Vectari destroyer was making a desperate run toward open space. Its engines were at full power. Its weapons were firing wildly in all directions. Destroy it, Hana ordered. The Iron Will turned and locked onto the fleeing ship. 2 shots from the main cannon, and the destroyer was gone. Nothing left but debris and dust. Captain, I am receiving reports from all sectors, Jiho said. Our ships are reporting 0 casualties. The enemy is in complete chaos. They cannot coordinate their defense. Good. Tell all ships to maintain pressure. Do not let them recover. The battle continued for 12 minutes. 12 minutes of fire and death and screaming metal. Hana watched as ship after ship was destroyed. She counted 70 Vectari vessels gone in the first wave alone. The Vectari fought bravely. She would give them that. Their soldiers did not run. Their captains did not surrender. They faced death with the courage of warriors. But courage was not enough. Not against Terran weapons. Not against Terran technology. Not against a species that had spent centuries preparing for exactly this kind of war. Captain. Jiho's voice was sharp. I have located the enemy flagship. The Ironclaw, General Minho, is aboard. Hana looked at the tactical display. The Ironclaw was at the center of the remaining Vectari fleet. It was larger than the other ships, with heavier armor and more weapons. It was also trying to retreat. He wants to run, Hana said quietly. He wants to go home and tell his emperor what happened here. Should we let him go, Captain? Hana thought about it. Part of her wanted to let Minho escape. Let him carry the message back to the Vectari. Let him tell them what happened when they ignored the warning. But that was not the protocol. The rules were clear. No survivors. No exceptions. Block his escape route, Hana ordered. Coordinate with the other ships. I want the Ironclaw trapped. Within minutes, Terran ships had moved into position around the flagship. General Minho tried to break through twice, but each time he was pushed back. His fleet was shrinking by the minute. 200 ships destroyed. Then 250. Then 280. Minho's voice came through on an open channel. He had somehow broken through the jamming, if only for a moment. To any Terran commander who can hear me, Minho said. His voice was tired, defeated. I am General Minho of the Vectari Empire. I am ordering my fleet to stand down. We surrender. Please. Accept our surrender. Hana closed her eyes. She knew what the answer had to be. Admiral Teeman's voice came through the fleet channel. General Minho, this is Admiral Teeman. Your surrender is rejected. You were warned not to come here. You were told what would happen. The rules of engagement are clear. There will be no prisoners. But we are laying down our weapons. Minho shouted. We are no longer a threat. Under galactic law, you must accept our surrender. Galactic law does not apply here, Teeman replied. This is Terran space. Our rules. Our justice. And our rules say that anyone who crosses our border with hostile intent does not leave alive. This is murder. No, General. This is consequences. The transmission ended. Hana opened her eyes and looked at her crew. They were all watching her, waiting for orders. "You heard the Admiral," she said. "Finish it." The final phase of the battle lasted 8 more minutes. The remaining Vektari ships were destroyed one by one. Some tried to fight. Some tried to run. Some simply sat in space, waiting for death. It did not matter. The result was the same. Captain Hana personally targeted the Ironclaw. She watched General Minho's flagship on her screen as the Iron Will moved into position. The Vektari ship's shields were already failing. Its weapons were offline. It was a dead ship that had not stopped moving yet. "General Minho," Hana said softly, "I hope your Emperor was worth dying for." She gave the order. The Iron Will fired its main cannon 3 times. The Iron Claw broke apart in silence, its pieces scattering into the void. And then it was over. The battlefield was quiet. 300 Vektari ships had become 300 fields of debris. 50,000 Vektari soldiers had become dust and memory. The invasion that was supposed to conquer 12 human worlds had ended in total destruction. Lieutenant Jiho looked at his console. His hands were shaking slightly. "Captain," he said, "all enemy vessels have been destroyed. No survivors detected. Our casualties are—" He paused, checking the numbers twice. "Our casualties are 0. Not a single Terran ship was lost." Hana nodded. She had expected nothing less. "Send a message to Admiral Teeman," she said. "Tell him the mission is complete. The Vektari invasion has been stopped." As the Iron Will moved through the debris field, Hana looked out at the destruction. Pieces of Vektari ships floated past a window. She could see the remains of weapons, engines, and hulls. Somewhere in that wreckage were the bodies of 50,000 soldiers who had come to conquer her people. She did not feel sorry for them. She could not afford to. The galaxy was a dangerous place. Empires rose and fell. Species lived and died. The only way to survive was to be stronger than your enemies. And today, humanity had proven that it was the strongest of all. "Captain," Jiho said quietly, "do you think the Vektari will try again?" Hana thought about it. She thought about Emperor Dran sitting on his golden throne. She thought about all the other empires watching from the edges of space. She thought about what they would do when they heard about this battle. "No," she said finally. "I do not think they will try again. Not after this." She turned away from the window. "Set course for Station Omega. The Admiral will want a full report." The Iron Will turned and flew away, leaving the debris field behind. In a few days, the wreckage would drift apart. In a few months, it would be scattered across the sector. And in a few years, no one would be able to tell that a battle had ever been fought here. But the memory would remain. The lesson would remain. The Vektari had trespassed into Terran territory, and they had paid the price. The Empire was alerted. Trespassing into Terran territory guarantees death. Part 1. The silence before the storm. The Vektari Empire stretched across 3,000 star systems. Their warships numbered in the millions. Their armies had crushed every species that dared to stand against them. For 800 years, they had conquered and expanded without stopping. No one could match their power. No one could challenge their might. Emperor Dran sat on his golden throne and looked at the star maps before him. He had everything. Yet he wanted more. His advisors stood in a circle around the great table. The holographic display showed the known galaxy in blue and green lights. Most of it belonged to the Vektari. But there was one sector that remained gray, unknown, untouched. It was marked with a simple label: Terran space. "What do we know about this region?" Emperor Dran asked. His voice was deep and cold. It carried the weight of absolute power. An advisor named Coram stepped forward. He was old and had served 3 emperors before Dran. "Very little, my lord. The species that lives there calls themselves humans. They control only 12 planets. Our scouts have observed them from a distance for many years. They appear to be a young species. Perhaps 5,000 years of civilization at most. 5,000 years? Terran laughed. The Victari were building star empires when these creatures were still living in caves. Why have we not taken their worlds already? Coram hesitated. This was the question he feared. There have been warnings, my lord. Every ship that approaches their border receives a message. It tells them to turn back. It says that trespassing into Terran territory guarantees death. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Death? A species with 12 planets threatens the greatest empire in the galaxy with death. It is likely just fear tactics, my lord. A weak species trying to appear strong. We have seen this before. Dran nodded slowly. He had seen it before. Small civilizations always tried to look bigger than they were. They sent threats they could never back up. They built walls they could never defend. And in the end, they always fell. The Victari had crushed hundreds of such species. The humans would be no different. Send a scouting fleet, the Emperor commanded. I want to know everything about these humans. Their weapons. Their defenses. Their weaknesses. Report back within one cycle. Fleet Commander Una received the orders that same day. She was young for a commander, only 40 years old. But she had proven herself in battle many times. Her ship, the Crimson Fang, was one of the fastest in the Imperial fleet. She gathered a crew of 50 and set course for the edge of Terran space. The journey took 3 days. Una spent most of that time reviewing the limited information they had about humans. The files were thin. There were some blurry images of human ships. A few intercepted communications in a strange language. And of course, the warning message that played on repeat at their border. What do you think of these humans, Commander? Her second officer, Dury, asked one evening. Una looked at the images on her screen. The human ships were small, simple. They had none of the elegant curves of Victari vessels. They looked like metal boxes floating in space. I think they are nothing special, Una said. A minor species that has been lucky enough to avoid our attention. Their luck is about to run out. Dury nodded, but there was something in his eyes. A small flicker of doubt. The warning message concerns me, Commander. It plays in every known language. That means they know about us. They know about all the major species in the galaxy. How does such a small civilization have that knowledge? Una considered his words. It was a good question. A species with only 12 planets should not have the resources to monitor the entire galaxy. They should not know enough languages to broadcast in all of them. But Una pushed the thought aside. There had to be a simple explanation. Perhaps the humans were good at stealing information. Perhaps they had bought it from traders. It did not matter. Knowledge alone could not save them from Victari weapons. The Crimson Fang reached the border of Terran space at midnight. The crew gathered on the bridge and stared at the viewscreen. There was nothing special to see. Just empty space and distant stars. But then the message began. It came through on every channel. Audio and visual. The voice was calm and clear. It spoke in perfect Victari language. Attention. You are approaching Terran territory. This is your first and only warning. Turn back now. Trespassing into Terran space guarantees death. We do not negotiate. We do not make exceptions. Turn back now. The bridge was silent. The message repeated 3 times, then stopped. Una felt a strange chill run down her spine. She had heard many threats in her career. Enemies always talked big before they died. But something about this message was different. It was not angry. It was not desperate. It was simply stating a fact. Like someone saying the sun is hot or water is wet. Commander? Dury asked quietly. What are your orders? Una straightened her shoulders. She was a Vektari officer. She did not run from words. We continue forward, she said. We observe and gather information. Stay at maximum sensor range. Do not engage unless attacked. The Crimson Fang crossed the invisible line into Terran space. Nothing happened. No alarms, no attacks. No sign that anyone even noticed them. Una allowed herself a small smile. The warning was empty after all. For the next 2 days, they moved carefully through the outer edges of Terran territory. They scanned everything. The human ships they detected were few and far between. Most of them were cargo vessels, slow and lightly armed. Una counted only 3 military ships in the entire sector. 3 ships to guard an entire border. This is pathetic, Una said on the second night. They have almost no defenses. Their ships are outdated. Their weapons are primitive. The Emperor will be pleased. But Dury was not smiling. He was staring at his console with a deep frown. Commander, there is something strange here. What is it? I have been scanning the asteroid fields near the 4th planet. There are structures inside them, hidden. My sensors can barely detect them, but they are there. Hundreds of them. Una walked over to his station. She looked at the readings. He was right. There were faint energy signatures hidden among the rocks. They were small and well concealed. If Dury had not been looking carefully, he would have missed them completely. Defense platforms? Una guessed. I do not know, Commander. I have never seen energy signatures like these. They do not match anything in our database. Una stared at the screen for a long moment. Then she shook her head. It did not matter what the humans were hiding in their asteroid fields. A few hundred platforms could not stop a Vektari invasion fleet. Nothing could. We have seen enough, Una decided. Take us back to the border. We will report to the Emperor. The Crimson Fang left Terran space that night. The warning message played again as they crossed the border, but Una ignored it. She had her report ready. The humans were weak. Their space was undefended. Their worlds were ripe for conquest. 3 days later, she stood before Emperor Dran and delivered her findings. The Emperor listened with growing excitement. When she finished, he smiled a terrible smile. Excellent, he said. Prepare the invasion fleet. We will add 12 new worlds to our empire before the month ends. Una bowed low. It will be done, my lord. As she left the throne room, she felt proud. She had served her emperor well. Soon, the Vektari would have another victory to celebrate. Another species would kneel before their might. She did not know that she had just sealed the fate of 300,000 Vektari soldiers. She did not know that the humans had detected her ship the moment it crossed the border. She did not know that every move she made had been watched, recorded, and analyzed. And she did not know that somewhere in Terran space, an old admiral named Teeman was reading her report before she had even delivered it to her. Emperor.tam, I am put down the intercepted data and sighed. He had hoped the Vektari would be smart. He had hoped they would listen to the warning. But they never did. No one ever did. He pressed a button on his console. A young officer appeared on the screen. Yes, Admiral? Activate Defense Protocol 7, Teeman said quietly. The Vektari are coming. Make sure we are ready to welcome them. The officer nodded. Understood, sir. How many ships should we prepare? Teeman looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Vektari were building their invasion fleet. They thought they were hunting prey. They did not realize they were walking into a trap. All of them, Teeman said. Prepare all of them. The Empire was alerted. Trespassing into Terran territory guarantees death. Part 4. No mercy. No survivors. Commander Sunwoo had a simple job. Find any Vectari who survived the battle and destroy them. He flew his fighter through the debris field, scanning the wreckage for life signs. His squadron of 12 pilots followed behind him in perfect formation. They were the best in the Terran Defense Force. They had trained for years for exactly this kind of mission. Commander, I have a contact at bearing 140. Pilot Nari reported through the communication channel. A Vectari escape pod. 4 life signs inside. Sunwoo checked his sensors. She was right. A small pod was drifting through the debris, its emergency beacon flashing weakly. Inside were 4 Vectari soldiers, probably officers who had escaped their ship before it exploded. I see it, Sunwoo replied. Move to intercept. Should we capture them, Commander? They might have useful information. Sunwoo paused. It was a reasonable question. In most wars, capturing enemy officers was valuable. They could be questioned. They could reveal secrets about their empire's plans and weaknesses. But this was not most wars. This was Terran space. And the rules here were different. No prisoners, Sunwoo said. You know the protocol. There was silence on the channel. Then Nari's voice came back, quieter than before. Understood, Commander. She fired twice. The escape pod exploded in a flash of light. The 4 life signs disappeared from the sensors. Sunwoo did not feel good about it. He never felt good about killing helpless enemies. But he understood why the rules existed. Humanity could not afford to show weakness. They could not afford to let anyone think there was a chance of survival if they attacked. The moment one enemy escaped, the message would change. Other empires would think they could attack and retreat. They would think they could negotiate if things went wrong. And then humanity would face endless wars from enemies who believed they had nothing to lose. No, it was better this way. Harsh, yes. Cruel, maybe, but effective. No species that had attacked Terran space had ever survived. And that was why so few species ever tried. Commander, another pilot called out. I have detected a larger contact. It looks like a Vectari shuttle. It is trying to hide in the shadow of a destroyed cruiser. Sunwoo turned his fighter toward the signal. How many life signs? 12, maybe 15. The interference from the debris is making it hard to get an accurate reading. All pilots converge on my position. Let us end this. The squadron flew through the wreckage like ghosts. They passed broken ships and shattered hulls. They flew past bodies floating in the void. Vectari soldiers who had died when their vessels exploded. Sunwoo tried not to look at them. They were the enemy, but they had still been living beings. They still had hopes and dreams and families waiting for them back home. But they had made a choice. They had chosen to come here. They had chosen to ignore the warnings. And now they were paying the price. The shuttle came into view. It was a small transport designed for moving officers between ships. It was not built for combat. Its weapons were weak. Its shields were thin. It had no chance against 12 Terran fighters. But the Vectari inside were still trying. As Sunwoo approached, the shuttle's single gun opened fire. Blue energy bolts flew toward the Terran fighters, missing by wide margins. The Vectari gunner was either injured or panicking. Poor targeting, Pilot Nari observed. They are afraid. They should be, Sunwoo replied. All pilots, disable their engines. I want that shuttle stopped. The fighters opened fire in coordinated bursts. Their shots were precise, targeted. Within seconds, the shuttle's engines were smoking ruins. The small ship drifted to a halt, powerless and alone. Commander, we've stopped the enemy vessel. What are your orders? Sunwoo flew closer to the shuttle. Through its windows, he could see Vectari faces staring out at him. Some looked angry. Some looked scared. One was pressing his hands against the glass, shouting something that Sunwoo could not hear. He thought about what that Victari might be saying. Maybe he was begging for mercy. Maybe he was cursing the humans. Maybe he was praying to whatever gods his people believed in. It did not matter. The result would be the same. Nari, Sunwoo said quietly, you have the best shot in the squadron. Make it quick. Yes, Commander. Nari's fighter moved forward. She lined up her targeting computer with careful precision. When she fired, it was a single shot. Clean. Perfect. The shuttle's reactor exploded, and the ship disappeared in a ball of white fire. The Victari inside never felt a thing. Sunwoo closed his eyes for a moment. Good shot, Nari. Continue the sweep. I want every escape pod, every shuttle, every piece of debris with a life sign inside. Find them all. The squadron spread out across the debris field. For the next 3 hours, they hunted. They found escape pods and destroyed them. They found damaged ships with survivors inside and destroyed them. They found life rafts, emergency beacons, even Victari soldiers floating in spacesuits hoping to be rescued. They destroyed them all. Admiral Tammin monitored the operation from Station Omega. He sat in his command chair, watching the reports come in. Each destroyed target was logged. Each confirmed kill was recorded. The numbers were climbing steadily. Admiral, Lieutenant Minji said from her station, we are receiving a transmission from outside our space. It appears to be from the Victari home world. Tammin raised an eyebrow. Put it through. The main view screen flickered to life. A Victari officer appeared, his face pale with fear. He was not wearing the fancy uniform of a noble or a general. He was just a communications officer, probably the only one brave enough to make this call. I am calling on behalf of Emperor Dran, the officer said. His voice was shaking. The Emperor demands to know what has happened to our invasion fleet. We have lost all contact with General Minho and his ships. What is happening? Tammin leaned back in his chair. Your fleet crossed into our territory. They ignored our warnings. They are all dead. The officer stared at him. All of them? 300 ships? 50,000 soldiers? All of them. That is impossible. You are lying. Tammin shook his head slowly. I am not lying. Your fleet entered our space at midnight, Galactic Standard Time. By morning, every ship was destroyed. Your General Minho is dead. His officers are dead. His soldiers are dead. There are no survivors. The officer's face went white. Behind him, Tammin could hear other voices speaking in rapid Victari. They sounded panicked. The Emperor will not accept this, the officer finally said. He will send another fleet. A larger one. You cannot defeat the entire Victari Empire. I can, Tammin replied calmly. And I will. Tell your Emperor that if he sends another ship into our space, it will meet the same fate. Tell him that the warning broadcasts were not empty threats. Tell him that trespassing into Terran territory guarantees death. We meant every word. You are murderers. You killed soldiers who were trying to surrender. They were invaders. They came to conquer our worlds. They came to kill our people. They chose their fate the moment they crossed our border. The officer opened his mouth to speak again, but Tammin cut the transmission. The screen went dark. The command center was silent. Minji looked at the Admiral with uncertain eyes. Sir, do you think they will really send another fleet? Tammin thought about it. He thought about Emperor Dran and his pride. He thought about the Victari generals and their hunger for revenge. He thought about all the ways this situation could get worse. They might, he admitted. Pride makes people do stupid things. But they will think twice now. They will know what they are facing. And maybe, just maybe, they will decide that 12 human planets are not worth the cost. And if they do not decide that, Tammin smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had fought too many wars and seen too many deaths. Then we will kill them too, as many as they send, for as long as it takes, until they understand that humanity is not prey. We are the predators. Back in the debris field, Commander Sunwoo was finishing his sweep. His squadron had destroyed every Vectari survivor they could find. The sensors showed no more life signs in the entire sector. "Commander," Pilot Nari said, "I think we are done. The area is clear." Sunwoo looked at his sensors one more time. She was right. The debris field was nothing but dead metal and empty space now. The Vectari invasion force had been completely erased. "Good work, everyone," Sunwoo said. "Form up. We are heading back to Station Omega." As they flew away, Sunwoo took one last look at the battlefield. The wreckage stretched for thousands of kilometers. It was the largest single victory in Terran history. It was also the largest mass killing. He wondered what history would say about this day. Would they call humans heroes? Defenders of their homeland? Or would they call them monsters? Killers who showed no mercy? Maybe both. Maybe that was what humanity had become. Heroes and monsters at the same time. Angels who protected their own and demons who destroyed everything else. Sunwoo did not know if that was good or bad. He only knew that his people were safe. His worlds were secure. And his enemies were dead in the end. That was all that mattered. "Nari," he said quietly. "Yes, Commander? Do you ever wonder if we are doing the right thing? Killing everyone. No prisoners. No mercy." There was a long pause. When Nari spoke again, her voice was thoughtful. "I wonder about it all the time, Commander. But then I think about what would happen if we showed weakness. I think about other empires watching us. I think about what the Wolf Empire was alerted. Trespassing into Terran territory. Guarantees death, Part 5. The galaxy learns Emperor Dran sat alone in his throne room. The golden walls that once seemed so magnificent now felt like the walls of a prison. The star maps that once showed his glorious empire now showed only his. Failure. 3 days had passed since he lost. Contact with General Minho. 3 days since his invasion fleet had crossed into Terran space and vanished. 3 days of waiting, hoping, praying to gods. He did not believe in Dot, and then the human drone arrived. It came out of nowhere. It flew past every patrol. It ignored every weapon fired at it. And when it reached his throne world, it landed directly in front of the Imperial Palace, as if the humans had known exactly where to find him. Dran was afraid to open it. He was afraid of what he might find inside. But he was still the Emperor. He could not show weakness in front of his advisors. The drone opened with a soft click. Inside was a small device. A projector. Dran picked it up with trembling hands and activated it. Admiral Timon's face appeared in the air before him. The old human looked tired but calm. His eyes held no anger, no pride, only sadness. "Emperor Dran," Timon began. "By now, you know that your fleet has been destroyed. 300 ships, 50,000 soldiers, all dead. General Minho is dead. His officers are dead. There are no survivors." Dran felt his legs weaken. He sat down heavily on his throne, unable to stand. "Your fleet crossed our border. They ignored our warnings. They brought weapons into our home. And so we destroyed them. All of them. This is not revenge. This is not cruelty. This is simply the consequence of your choice." The recording paused. When Taman spoke again, his voice was softer. "I want you to understand something, Emperor. Humanity does not want war. We do not seek conquest. We do not dream of empire. We only want to be left alone, to live our lives, to raise our children, to explore the stars in peace. But we have learned, over many centuries, that peace must be defended. We have learned that weakness invites attack. We have learned that the only way to stop predators is to make them fear you more than they want your worlds. That is why we sent the warnings. That is why we killed your soldiers without mercy. That is why we are sending you this message now. Tammin looked directly at the camera. It felt like he was looking into Dran's soul. Send another fleet, and we will destroy it. Send 10 fleets, and we will destroy them all. We will never surrender. We will never negotiate. We will never stop fighting until every enemy of humanity is dead or has learned to leave us alone. The choice is yours, Emperor. You can spend the rest of your reign sending your people to die in our space. Or you can accept that some borders should not be crossed. Some warnings should not be ignored. Some species should not be challenged. Think carefully. You have already lost 50,000 soldiers because of your pride. How many more are you willing to sacrifice? The recording ended. Timon's face disappeared. The throne room was silent. For a long time, Dran did not move. He sat on his golden throne, staring at nothing, his mind filled with images of burning ships and dying soldiers. His soldiers. His people. Dead because of his arrogance. One of his advisors stepped forward. It was old Karm, the same advisor who had warned him about the human warning broadcasts. "My Emperor," Karm said carefully, "what should we do?" Dran looked at him. For the first time in his life, the Emperor did not know what to say. He had ruled for 30 years. He had conquered dozens of worlds. He had never been defeated until now. "Nothing," Dran finally whispered. "We do nothing, my Emperor. The humans have made their point. They are not prey. They are not weak. They are exactly what they claim to be. A species that will destroy anyone who threatens them." He stood up slowly, his legs still shaking. "We will not send another fleet. We will not attack their space again. We will pretend this never happened and focus on other conquests. But the honor of the Empire means nothing if there is no Empire left to honor." Dran shouted. His voice echoed through the throne room. "I lost 50,000 soldiers because I was too proud to listen to a warning. I will not lose 50,000 more." Karm bowed low. "As you command, my Emperor." Dran walked to his window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, in a small corner of the galaxy, 12 human planets were protected by a force he could not match. A species he could not defeat. A warning he should have believed. He had learned his lesson. The hard way. But Emperor Dran was not the only one watching. Across the galaxy, other empires had been paying attention to the Vectari invasion. They had spies in every system. They had informants in every court. And now, they all knew what had happened. The Vorath Collective, a federation of insect-like species that controlled 200 worlds, received the news with shock. Their leaders gathered in their underground hives and debated what it meant. Could the humans really have destroyed 300 ships without losing a single vessel? Was it possible? Was it true? They decided not to find out. The Vorath had been considering expanding toward Terran space for centuries. After hearing about the Vectari fleet, they quietly abandoned those plans forever. The Syndicate of Marin, a union of merchant worlds that valued profit above all else, calculated the cost of attacking humanity. The numbers were not good. Even if they won, the losses would be too great. They decided that trading with humans was far more profitable than fighting them. The Holy Kingdom of Eternal Light, a religious empire that believed all other species were meant to serve them, declared the humans to be demons sent by their enemies. They warned their followers to never approach Terran space. Their priests preached that the demons would destroy anyone who came near, and in the quiet halls of the Galactic Council, where representatives from 100 species gathered to discuss matters of peace and war. The human ambassador received many strange looks. Some were fearful. Some were respectful. Some were curious. One ambassador, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms, approached the human after a council meeting. "I have heard what your people did to the Victari," the ambassador said. 300 ships. No survivors. Is it true? The human ambassador, a woman named Sora, nodded calmly. It is true. Why? Why kill them all? They tried to surrender at the end. Sora looked at him with eyes that had seen too much. Because surrender must come before the attack, not after. Because mercy shown to invaders encouraged more invasions. Because my species has learned that the only way to be left alone is to make the cost of attacking us higher than any empire is willing to pay. That seems harsh. It is harsh. But it works. How many species have attacked Terran space in the last 200 years? The ambassador thought about it. None that I know of. Exactly. And how many species have attacked your worlds? The ambassador was silent. The answer was many. The attacks were constant. The wars never ended. Sora smiled sadly. We do not enjoy killing, Ambassador. We would prefer a galaxy where all species lived in peace. But that galaxy does not exist. So we do what we must to survive. She turned and walked away, leaving the ambassador to think about her words. Back on Earth, Admiral Taman retired from service 3 years after the Victari battle. He moved to a small house by the ocean and spent his days watching the waves and thinking about the past. Sometimes, late at night, he wondered about the 50,000 soldiers he had killed. He wondered if there had been another way, but he always came to the same conclusion. There was no other way. Humanity was surrounded by predators. The only language they understood was strength. The only message they respected was death. So humanity had become strong. Humanity had learned to kill without hesitation. Humanity had built the most terrifying military the galaxy had ever seen. And in exchange, humanity was safe. Human children grew up without fear of alien conquest. Human families lived their lives in peace. Human worlds flourished while other species burned in endless wars. It was not a perfect solution. It was not even a good solution. But it was the only solution that worked. On the day Taman died, at the age of 92, he looked out his window at the stars one last time. Somewhere out there, empires rose and fell. Species fought and died. The galaxy continued its ancient dance of destruction, but not for humans. Not anymore. He closed his eyes and smiled. Humanity was safe. And that was all that mattered. Many light years away, a young Victari student studied the history of her empire. She read about the great conquest that never was. She read about the invasion fleet that never returned. She read about the humans and their terrible warning. Her teacher stood beside her, pointing at the star map. "Do you see that sector?" The teacher asked. "The one marked in red?" "Yes," the student said. "What is it?" "That is Terran space. Human territory. Why is it marked in red?" The teacher was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was soft. "Because red means danger. Red means death. Red means never ever, under any circumstances, go there." "Why? What happened?" The teacher looked at the young student with ancient, tired eyes. "Once, our empire sent a great fleet to conquer them. 300 ships, 50,000 soldiers. The greatest invasion force in a century. What happened to them? They all died. Every single one. The humans killed them all and sent a message to our emperor.